long way to go. It's dark all over, the moon's starting to glow. Gotta stay awake, no matter what I do. Wanna see my girl when the night is through. I'm driving on, and I gotta be strong, and it won't be long. I'm driving on.
Hey, live on Pat Soundbytes Unplugged podcast, keeping new music alive and rocking the world. And I am ecstatic to have my good friend, Mr. Bryan Bassett, back on our show today. And before I get to Bryan, yes, holy mess came in the mail. I was hoping to have it so we can chat with Bryan about this great album. Foghat 17 studio album, Sonic Mojo, all cool. I have, like I said, I just opened it in front of Bryan, and I can't wait to see this purple vinyl. If you haven't gotten it already, oh my goodness, check. How cool is this, man? This is super cool, Bryan. How you been, my man?
I've been doing great. Traveling around, playing some rock and roll.
The album came out last Friday, November 10th, and Bryan and the guys, Roger and Scott, and our new and Scott and Rodney, and our new singer, my man Scott Holt. I got my Scott shirt on here today. I'll be Earl number 6, I guess, or Earl number 7. But yeah, no, Scott is doing well, it seems, and you guys are at the Iridium on Sunday, and you head out to California tomorrow. My goodness, man, what a great album. Let me just start off, Bryan, by asking, what was when you guys get together in the Boogie Motel in Florida, and Roger says, like, where do the ideas come from? It looks like Foghat, you guys, to me, and I've been a fan forever, went back to the old roots of Foghat. I mean, you guys have been in King of Boogie forever, and you're still going strong. Thank God for that. And it's just, there's a lot of great original tracks, and there's a lot of great deep tracks of some really cool blues tracks. And I see to myself, it kind of reminds me of the old times. So I'll let you take it from there.
Yeah, that's what we were sort of bringing back, really, with Scott being our lead vocalist now, and having spent so much time with Buddy Guys over 10 years as his second guitarist and friend. He has a million blues songs in his head. So a lot of the songs that are on there are ones that pop out in sound checks. He'll just start playing a song, we all jam along, and if we look at each other and go, hey, this is a pretty good one, we write it on our little secret list to maybe try record later. And that's how a lot of the blues songs and the covers came about, just us thinking of old songs that we love and ones that sounded good on us when we play them live. And so we put those aside, and then we had some beautiful contributions from our old friend Kim Simmons, sent us some demos, and we had hoped for him to play on the record like he did on our last one, Under the Influence. He was a guest guitarist, and but he sent us, Roger, 4 demos, just him and the guitar, and 3 of the songs we really loved, and they're on the record. So we sort of co-wrote them with Kim, and and then unfortunately his health went bad, and we lost him, but we were blessed to have 3 of his compositions, some of his final songs, written on this record. So those are real special to us. And then the other ones, we just keep, we have songs that just pop up in rehearsals and jam sessions that are germs of ideas, and Roger will come up with a lyric idea, and then we sit down and write the rest of the other stuff that's all original, or just come out of our writing sessions at the studio.
It's back in the day, I was blessed to see Lonesome Dave, and certainly I got to know a little bit about Charlie and see Charlie perform. But I met Scott when you guys put out the Earl and the Agitators, and I interviewed Scott. And man, if he's not a perfect fit, really, for Foghat, as you said just a minute ago, because he's got this blues kind of background with the Buddy Guy thing, but he really fits in. Even though I just got the physical copy of the album, I have listened to the album digitally, and man, there's something about And it's certainly nothing against Charlie or God bless Dave, but he's a perfect fit for this band. What do you
He
guys see
really
out
is.
of
And from the time we first met, when there was a time when, we're all getting on in age a little bit. And so we decided everybody should have an understudy in case of, illness or whatever. And Scott was suggested to Roger. He lives down near Nashville. We have friends there. And so we started rehearsing Foghat songs in case he had to back up Charlie. And actually, Charlie did, couldn't make one show. I think he was ill with the flu or something. And Scott came out and did the show. So that was our introduction through that. But we started writing songs almost right away. And that's how Earl and the Agitators came about. We needed 1 or 2 songs for the last studio record, Under the Influence, in which we did come up with 2 or 3 songs for the album, but we had like 10 or 12 more songs that we had recorded and wrote. And then we went to Nashville, where Scott, Roger, and I were like a guinea pig band for a friend of ours that was a recording engineer school, and he needed a band to record, for his graduation project. So we recorded 5 or 6 more songs up there in Nashville. So we're like, what are we going to do with all these songs? And that's when we came up with Earl and the Agitators. It's like, well, let's just, make up a name and just put them out there. So, and now it's really not, So, so we've been working with Scott quite a long time, 7 years, really, from the time we met. And we were actually doing writing for this record when Charlie decided to retire, and Scott was right there at the studio. We're like, well, you feel like learning a bunch of Foghat songs and being a permanent member. That's pretty much how it came about. It. So it was a very easy transition. He's a fantastic person, great guitar player. Me and him were just having a ball throwing guitar licks back and forth at each other. So it's just been a lot of fun.
I got to see Scott, I want to say at BB King when you guys had the album release of Under the Influence. And I said, man, this guy, there's something about this guy. And man, like I said, he just fits in really well. I kicked myself. I already had a commitment, or I would have been at the Iridium, because I really wanted this. I can't wait to see Scott when you guys perform and seeing him as the lead. He's a really cool guy. I got to, I interviewed him once or twice, and he's a really cool guy. He always said, you can get in Nashville, man. Come to my record store. Well, give me a call. Yeah, no, that's all good stuff. And I'm happy everything. It just never gets old. I mean, Brian, I forgot to write in my notes how long you've been with the band, but the longevity of you guys continuing to play. I mean, Foghat's over 50 years, 2021, going strong. I mean, does it ever get old with Roger and
No,
Rodney? And
here's
Rodney's a comedian. I took Rodney with Pat Travers.
right.
And, I know he
we
fits
just
in
have
too.
great chemistry, and I've been here straight since '99. So
Okay, wow.
23 years straight. And I played with Dave, of course, in the late 80s and early 90s for 4 years. So, I'm pushing. That's a long time. I mean, that's a long time for any band. Even the last 20 years, it just seems like it flew by. But, when you have 4 guys that like each other and enjoy playing music, and, we do nothing but laugh and, and have a hoot and when we're out there on the road, so that's just a great, that's the whole thing. Any band has to have chemistry, and, if you don't, you fall apart, and it's something, I never wanted to be in a band where there was animosity or, people didn't like each other. It always seemed pointless to me. You're in a rock band. Can't have fun being in a rock band. You need to find something else to do. But, we're just having a great time. We love playing. Roger's playing great. He's all, excited about the record, and he's been on every single Foghat record ever made, and his sound and the way he drums is sort of the foundation of all the records. And then, everybody else is the icing on top. And, of course, everybody misses Dave, and Rod was a fantastic player. And of course, I draw inspiration from them every night when we play their songs. I think about them. And of course, my major influence on slide playing is Rod, of course, because I spent so many years, studying his parts. But we have a really good unit right now. We're playing we're at the end of our tour season, so we're firing on all cylinders. And we're just getting ready to finish off the year, and then we'll probably go in and start rehearsals to figure out what we're going to do next concert season.
There you go. And you mentioned you've been going at it for a while, and I got this 45, a little wild cherry. And
Right.
our friends, don't forget our last couple of chats. And I get a kick out of watching the video of you guys. I want to say American Bandstand. I forgot what it was, like 1973 or something like that.
It was
Brian?
76, was the big year. We were on the Grammys and we did all the shows, Don Kirshner's rock concert, Midnight Special. We even did the Dinah Shore show and the Merv Griffin show for that.
Wow, Dinah Shore. When I had when I was a youngster and I had black hair, but I
Yeah,
remember those things.
yeah, so we did a lot of those TV shows. Yeah, my kids get a kick out of seeing me all skinny with a big old poofy hairdo. So and my silk scarf, my crushed velvet suit. My style.
Nice. Well, those were the days. Ryan, is there an album or song or an artist that influenced you, that changed your life back in the day, that you said, this is where I want to do or get involved with?
Well, I'll tell you the Christmas that I got my guitar, my parents also bought me the Beck-Ola Jeff Beck album. So talk about setting the bar pretty high. And I never got over that bar, but I mean, talk about inspiration. So, I did love all the British guitar players. I was really into John Mayall and, with Peter Green, and then Clapton, of course, and, Mick Taylor, and then I started discovering the American blues guys, Johnny Winter and Roy Buchanan and, guys like that. I was just a guitar nut, like I loved all good guitar playing. And of course there was so much of it then. I mean, not how many more guitar players, like we could hear, sit here all for a half hour and name great guitarists, Richie Blackmore, Leslie West, and, all the other, so many more. But that was it, that's what started the whole deal. And, we were lucky enough to have that hit record, although it's not kind of funny because we were a rock band. The song is autobiographical. We're a rock band. The music scene started changing, and someone came up to our drummer and said, "Better start playing some funky music, white boy." and we, we were a very experienced club act. We were playing 4 nights a week, 5 nights a week, 4 hours a night, mostly all cover songs, and we could play any genre. Whatever was on the radio with that month. You'd go into rehearsals, learn the next 10 top 40 songs. So we got pretty adept at style changes, but we really made a concerted effort to turn into a funk band back then. And that was the result. That song, we didn't expect it to be such a big hit, but that was exciting as all get out, 20-year-old guys and have a big old #1 record. That was pretty exciting. So, yeah, but I always say, hey, I made the wedding circuit now with that song, every family party you go to. Yeah, that's the one that's the one grandma will get up to and dance with her granddaughter. That's just a good dance song and plays at a lot of family parties. So that's a lot of fun.
You mentioned your kids. What do you hope your kids learn checking out Dad that's been rocking for 15 years? Any of your kids picked up some of your traits in the music scene, Brian? Whether engineering or producing or in a band?
My youngest daughter is a orchestral percussionist. She's going on a college scholarship to Stetson University, and she's sort of above my pay grade now with her musical knowledge. She's doing classical music, and so she's got the bug. And they just had some concerts the other day that were fantastic, and so she loves it. She's the music bug. My eldest daughter is a trauma nurse, and she loves her, but she loves music, and her and my wife fly around. They like more metal kind of music, so they fly around and go see bands like Green Day and go to all the heavy rock concerts. Rob Zombie, Korn. That's their style of music that they like. And so that's their thing. So they're music lovers, and of course she has a crazy job. Really, what she does is unbelievable. And you say, what did they learn from me? I don't know. I guess being able to be self-employed and work for yourself. I mean, I've had odd jobs over the years to make ends meet here and there, worked at a Radio Shack, worked at a TV repair place, stuff like that. But by and large, worked for myself for my whole life. So I think that just, I think I instilled that in my girls to just be self-sufficient.
And your work ethic. I mean, here you are still doing it. And if anything, do what you love, because obviously if you didn't have fun and love this, it would have been packed up a long time ago.
Well, that's funny. When I was a kid, I had a college scholarship offered to me. I was a football player, and it was partial academic to Carnegie Mellon, which was quite a good school. And but I went
right in Pennsylvania, right?
That's right. And but I decided to go with the band I had at the time. A bunch of guys. We rented a condemned office building up in Lima, Ohio, and I turned down a scholarship and went and joined the band. And with 12 guys.
Sorry, Mom and Dad.
And But it's funny. I expected opposition from my parents, but they were actually very supportive. And I think my dad, who was a ex-military, but also a union truck driver, but also a frustrated writer, I think he wanted to see me pursue my artistic endeavor first before I had to give it up. And luckily, we not too long after, I graduated 72 from high school, and that hit record was 76. So. And then not too long, I'm playing the Civic Arena in Pittsburgh, opening up for the Isley Brothers, and we played there a couple times. But both my parents got to see me perform there, and so that was nice. So I was glad they got to see that I didn't make a horrible mistake.
Right.
Turned
Well,
out
I think the key is you got a couple of years ahead of me, but I feel like, look, I tell my kids, there's nothing you can't do. You want to go for it, you go for it. You got my support. And if you fail a little bit, there's nothing wrong with that. You pick up your feet and kick on going, because that's how we all learn.
Exactly.
But do what you want to do what you love to do. Brian, you're also a producer. How hard is it not to place yourself so much in a musical influence of, the role of the producer compared to what the artist or band, the singer or whoever is bringing to you as the ingredients of what their ideas are to put together for a record?
I think my forte is, I'm an engineer first and foremost, because I worked for so many years with King Records, and that was a blues label out of Sanford, Florida. I worked there from the mid 80s all the way up until the 2000s in various roles, mostly in engineering and a lot of producing and working with blues artists. So I learned a lot in that chair there. The bands would come in. It was almost like documentary recording. So I learned how to do a good engineering job on the record. But from a producing standpoint, I wanted to capture personality and get good performances out of the people that were in the room. And blues guys mostly like to play all together and as a band, and and particularly older front guys. Some of the older blues guys didn't like the headphones. They just wanted to play, and so that was an interesting way. And I had to figure out how to record that properly. So, and that's how I approach, producing Foghat Records. We basically self-produce. We all sit around and, I'm behind the console most of the time and doing rhythm tracks, and sometimes with a guitar in my lap. But I think, then I do, I guess, parsing of the performances is probably my biggest job as a producer, whether we need to redo a vocal line, if it's a little pitchy or something like that. But for all the guitar work on the record, me and Scott sit right next to each other, and he'll play something. I'll go, "Ooh, that was good," and then I'll answer him, and he'll go, "No, dude, no, try it again." So he's sort of self-produced that way. It's just very relaxed. But it's that's the bonus of me being able to be the engineer on the record and have our own studio, is that we just record at our leisure. We're not under any pressure, and and it's all fun. We go out, hit golf balls in the front yard, come in, lay down some tracks, and eat dinner, have a few drinks, listen back, talk about the song and whether we like the arrangement and all that kind of stuff. So it's a nice way to make records.
Got a little Foghat wine, and you're good.
That's right.
Good to go. Yeah, no, I think that's excellent that you're able to have that skill and be part of the band. And a producer, you're the guy that goes, "Hey, wait, stop, we're overthinking, we're killing ourselves, keep it simple and easy, and we got this." You guys are all, you're all veterans. Scott, Rodney, yourself, and obviously Roger. This isn't your first rodeo of putting records together.
Yeah, mostly it's song selection. We were kind of surprised on this record that when we got to the end of it, I was like, there's not really many songs on here over 4 minutes, which is unusual for us. We usually have a couple extravaganza jam ones, But it was because we took time to really think about the songs we wanted to put on here. And it's interesting, when I was mixing it, the songs sort of came out like 2 by 2, where we have sort of 2 country leaning ones, 2 deep blues ones, a 2 swamp ones, 2 rock ones. And,
there's a Rodney Crowell one, right? There's a
right.
Rodney Crowell that I listened to, "Song for the Life."
Yeah, and that turned out to be one of my favorites. It's sort of an earworm for me, because every time when I'm thinking about the record, that song creeps into my mind. And it's Roger for years walked around saying, "I don't drink as much as I ought to." That's one of the lines. And then he would laugh. It's just one of his lines. And we were like, well, and then he decided, he goes, where does that song, is that lyric from? What song? And so we did, a deep dive on the internet and found out it was a Rodney Crowell song, done in a much different way, more
Right.
country acoustic. So we really did a musical retake on that, but the lyrics are great. It's about the wisdom of maturity, I guess,
Every day I learn something, in this music world and different songs. And I couldn't believe, I heard, somebody play. I mean, I want to say it was like Etta James played "I Just Want to Make Love to You," and I'm like, wait a minute, that's a Foghat song. I got the album, and then I was talking to my buddy. He's like, no, dude, Rolling Stones did a thing, and and I remember sitting down. I've been blessed to hang out with Billy Gibbons a few times, and Billy always said, "Go back to the blues, go back to the blues." I
Yeah.
guess the blues was the meat and potatoes that kind of expanded into the rock and roll and the Def Leppards or Aerosmith or whoever you want to, but he
Mhm.
always said get back. But I was like shocked. I'm like listening to the Foghat. I just want to make love to you with Etta James. I'm like, wow,
Right.
that was pretty
And it
cool.
goes all the way back to Willie Dixon. So,
Yeah.
in his version, which we actually do, well, we used to do it, real slow. I like dun, dun, it's almost like it's dun, 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 and it's that slow song, and we, of course, Foghat, rocked it up when they recorded it way back then. But guys like me, that's how I learned about the American blues players. I mean, no one did more for American blues artists than the British guys of the 70s, John Mayo and all them, because they, and Lonesome Dave was like a blues historian. He had a record collection, unbelievable, 78s, I mean, hundreds of records. And that's how we met. I mean, he came to see my blues band in Orlando in like the mid 80s or 89, I guess. And we were playing all this really eclectic swamp blues, like by Lazy Lester and Lightning Slim and all these, like, not really known artists. Dave knew every song on our list, and that's how we met. He sat in with us, we became friends,
Wow.
and that was the beginning of my relationship with him. But guys like me that were in Pittsburgh, buying Cream records or John Mayo records or early Fleetwood Mac with Peter Green, and then you're looking at the song like, who's this Albert Collins guys, or who's Willie Dixon, so then you start investigating the American blues or the roots that they were so enthralled with, and they sort of gave us our own culture back. And funny enough, that's how I ended up getting so into the blues, from doing that research. And then I ended up working at a blues record label for 15 years, so that really sent me on my journey, doing all
Have
that
you?
early discovery.
I got a buddy of mine that lives in Muscle Shoals, and I learned so much about Muscle Shoals, and I never, I just like, oh yeah, Muscle Shoals, but to really understand the 7 or 8 recording studios and everybody from Etta James's Roberta Flack to everybody, the
Yeah,
Rolling Stones.
I mean,
Have you ever recorded at?
I never recorded there, but I got to be really good friends with Pete Carr, who was a really famous guitarist, one of the Muscle Shoals guitarists. He played on Tonight's the Night. And I mean, I helped him move one time. And it was like, it took 4 trips to get all his gold and platinum records out of his bedroom.
Well, that's a hard job, right?
Yeah, right. But he was a co-engineer with when I first started working at King Snake. It had just upgraded from a 16-track sort of a home studio into a full-on facility with 24-track 2-inch tape. And Pete was from Daytona Beach. I was living there near there, Port Orange, right next door. And he was longtime friends with Bob Greenlee, who owned the label. And so Pete and I were co-engineers at King Snake for a couple years there, and did the first 10 or 12 albums together. And I learned a boatload from him, speaking, because of his experience with Muscle Shoals. He was a really good engineer, and I learned a lot from him. And then he eventually went back to Muscle Shoals. And he was also a computer genius. What a guy he was. He did computer coding and
wow,
stuff like that. In fact, he would get frustrated with the music business. He goes, "Oh, I'm going back to the tech world," But he was a great guy. But yeah, so that's my connection to Muscle Shoals. I've been there. I visited the places, but I never actually recorded there.
Well, maybe you could sneak in there. Somebody needed a producer or a lead guitar slide guitarist.
The Stones made a special trip there and recorded several songs there. A couple of
buddy said Robert Plant was just down there not too long ago. But you think of, I got to go down there. But he says you're gonna like freak out. You blink an eye and you're out of there. But this is really, with the river there, the swamp, there's blues, the history. He said you would really.
Yeah, and all the Aretha Franklin records, were done down there with the Swamp guys, so they were a really tight rhythm section and made a lot of hit records down there.
Let me ask you about your playing, Brian. You mentioned, I want to say you play slide on Driving On, and I think there's another song that I caught you playing with the slide. Um, I met Sonny Landriff at Daryl's house, and somebody said, "You got to go interview this guy and see this guy."
Oh, he's
And I was like,
awesome.
wow. They said, Eric Clapton doesn't do Crossroads without Sonny showing up. Do you play with, I try to look, do you play when you put the slide on a special finger? Do you like, I think Sonny does like the pinky. How do you
Yeah,
put
he
like your
does the
index?
pinky. That's a real interesting subject, and someone that you could really do an interesting show on that slide because it's so varied. I use it on my ring finger. Bonnie Raitt and Rod Price use their middle finger,
Yeah.
and it all depends on how your fingers, how you can make chords, you know, with the slide on, So I have a better time using, keeping my slide here. Other people can stretch their pinky out enough to do it. Sonny Landreth is amazing. He does all this technique where he plays behind notes behind the slide. He like pushes them out from under the slide, so he gets all these
Wow.
really odd chord phrasings. And that's a really unique style with him. But there's what kind of slides people, some use glass. I use ceramic. I actually have a granite one right now I'm using a lot. There's metal ones, brass.
And it
You know,
makes that much of a difference, Brian?
it is, yeah. It depends. Yeah, it's a big tonal difference depending on how you set your amplifier up and what type of you know material you're using for your slide. People like Bonnie Raitt or Lowell George from Little Feat, they played Stratocasters and they played with a more clean tone. A lot of blues guys do too. And so, they tend to use like more like a Fender amp kind of sound, and it's more clean and glissando. Whereas Rod Price, who I style my playing after, we play through Marshall amplifiers, pretty much rock and roll distortion levels. So it's a whole different technique with how you mute. We use Gibson guitars instead of Fenders. So there's all kinds of different diverse ways to use it. And then you got guys like masters like Ry Cooder and David Lindley, played lap steel mostly, but what a beautiful tone he had, and he played on all those great records.
I was blown away by Derek Truck.
Yeah, and
I'm like, wow.
he came into my studio. He's from Montour, Florida, and we're right next door in Sanford was where King Snake Studios was. And his dad brought him in when he was 10 or 12 years old, and he had his baseball cap on, his SG, and hopped up on his Super Reverb, and then he started playing like Dwayne Allman. I actually got goosebumps, listening to him play as a young person. And he played, around town, with older guys, like in their 30s as his backup band. And he would come out in front of, his dad was there, of course, watching over the whole thing. But that's how long, ago I saw him, and he was great then. I mean, me, I'm trying to play slide guitar, and then, then a genius like him comes along, and you go, oh, well, I'll keep trying.
I got to talk to Warren Haynes about it, and he says, I remember that kid, like you said, the baseball cap, and we all just look at each other. He just was a natural. He did
I
not
know.
know nervous and just go at it. What's your go-to guitar, Brian, these days? You mentioned Gibson, you have a Les Paul, you have a Strat. What are you using these days?
I'm using SG for slide, like Derek Trucks. A lot of guys picks an SG Gibson for a slide just because it gives you upper access to the higher frets. The way that the body's cut, you can get up higher on the neck. I use some form of Telecaster, body. I don't play an actual Telecaster. For many years, I played a Schecter PT, which is a Telecaster body, but it has a humbucking pickup in it. So it's a nice hybrid between a Fender and a Gibson. Right now, I'm endorsed by a company called Diamond Guitars. They make really nice guitars, and I'm using one right now. That's been my main guitar for the last couple of years. It's a Telecaster body, but it has double humbuckers in it. So those are the two I travel with on tour. But
Do we have a Bryan Bassett signature guitar yet?
Not yet. Not a guitar, but I do have a signature slide through the company.
Oh, nice. Yeah. All right.
It's called Rocky Mountain Slide Company, and it's a really nice guy. Doc Sigler runs the company, makes all kinds of different slides. He sends me a box of different ones to try out now and again. But that's my company. I do have a custom slide there.
Do you prefer playing with a pick, Brian, or do you do both the finger or the pick?
Yeah, I do both. I'm a hybrid player. I use two open fingers and then a pick. You know, so I play like a claw. You know, and I use on slide. I'm going more and more with my fingers. You know, it just has an interesting tone against plastic. I usually play pick on the lower strings and fingers on the high strings, G, B, E. And yeah, so I'm a hybrid hand player.
Excellent. Well, I mean, Sonic Mojo. I mean, I even love the name. I mean, I love the purple. I love the design, but the name is really like a Foghat blues type of from Under the Influence, the Road Fever, the 8 Days on the Road, a little DVD over here at Daryl's, which was great. Maybe get you guys back to there. But this thing is incredible. I'm glad it actually came today. I know my green screen probably not helping in the lighting. A terrific job, and I'm just so thrilled to finally have it. And if you haven't gotten it, my goodness, go out and buy it today. Rose and Linda will love you. Roger will love you. You're never going to see something as cool as. Did you ever think vinyl? You've been around, Brian, for a while. Vinyl would be to come back and you can get 180 grams of this.
Yeah, I'm shocked but pleasantly pleased. You know, I'm glad to have that. You know, this format have another day in the sun. You know, I almost gave away my record collection, and as you know, Scott Holt has a record vinyl store down where he lives in Columbia, Tennessee. I was on the verge of giving my records to a friend of mine who has a called Atlantic Records. You know, and this is when they were going, you know, $1 a piece, you know, whatever, you know, people were just but my daughters talked me out of it, you know, and my youngest daughter, she goes, no, we want those records. And so now my daughter's bedroom over there has my old stereo in it, and sometimes it looks like my room in 1972. You know, there's Jethro Tull and Pink Floyd, and you know, all these my old records all run. So I kept most of them, you know. So yeah, I'm glad to see it. You know, it's just a fun format. Brings back a lot of memories for guys our age. You know, that's what you did with your buddies when a new record came out.
I went to the store. I couldn't wait to rip it apart. The liners, the lyrics, who produced it.
Put the record on, and then, you know, just pour it over every piece of art and word on the record, and who was the.
I got 8 tracks, and my kids look at me like I came from Mars. What is an 8-track? Then when I whipped out the 45s, they're like,
there you go.
You're a dinosaur.
Now we can play it again. Now
you're a dinosaur, Dad. Forget about the cassettes and all that good stuff. Well, Brian, thank you so much for your time. I know I could go on and on and on. It's Sonic Mojo. Go get it today. 180 gram purple neon vinyl. Go to foghat.com. I mean, I can't wait. The Kings of Boogie Rock, which I love. The analog guy. You know, Brian, when they went to this whole digital platform and this whole Spotify, and there's something about vinyl that you hear. And to me, I always said analog is where it's at. I'm old school. I'm sure you would agree to that.
Yeah, and I was an engineer during that transition period. You know, we went from 2-inch tape and half-inch mastered, you know, tape, totally analog, tube microphones. I mean, really, and then the 8. Well, I think the first thing that really came out was like this Sony made this device that you could hook up to a VCR, and it would like encode digital. And then ADATs came out, of course. That was a recording format, you know, these banks of 8-track machines. And then CDs came out, and you know, of course, that everyone predicted the demise of the music industry because of the endless pristine copies that digital make. And as it turned out, they were pretty right. So, you know, digital did totally change the entire record industry. But, you know, it's double-edged sword. We talk about, you know, a lot of people discuss with me about what my thoughts on streaming and the difference between digital and analog. You know, streaming is like a lending library. It's like every music in the world at your fingertips. So there's nothing wrong with that. It helps you find new artists, helps young artists get discovered when you can make a record on a laptop and not have to go to a $500,000 studio and have a record company to distribute and, you know, and get it played on the radio. I mean, before the internet, that was the only way. You know, you had to have a record company do all those functions for you. Now everybody's more entrepreneurial. All the bands, you know, got their own fan base going on YouTube before a record company even looks at them. So, you know, it's really interesting that I saw that whole digital, you know, changeover. And of course, I record all digital now. but with an analog mind. So
Oh, I like that. Hey, Brian, that's a song, Brian. Record with an analog mind. It's like Joe Walsh's song.
right. Yeah. I'm
Right?
an analog man.
I'm an analog man. I love that. That is cool. Yeah, no, there's something about analog compared to digital, and I totally agree with you. This album has been a rock. You go get it today and check out Brian and Roger and Rodney and our man Scott at his show before the end of the year. It's going to be full. Brian, again, thank you so much for your time, my
My
friend.
pleasure. Always great to talk to you.
Send my best to everybody, and we'll catch you in 2024 somewhere in New York.
All right. Sounds good. I'm sure we'll be up there.
Doesn't get any better than this. My man Bryan Bassett of Kings of Boogie Rock. Go check him out today.
All right, brother. Take care.
All right, Brian. Good. Have a great New Year. Be safe.
Thanks. You too.
All right.
I don't appreciate you. I don't appreciate you very much. I don't appreciate your self-entitled attitude, and I don't appreciate you. Smart on the inside, a beauty to see. Tells it like it is. She keeps a mystery. She's got it all. She's dragging you in. She's a little bit of